Hello everyone, it's Friday night and it is time for the Weekender once again. And we've a packed show with things that are mighty but mini. I take a look at some Samurai Command, John gets excited about the 8th Army in Africa, and Ben gives us a bit of a hint about an interesting Indie of the Week. On top of that, we also have a prize of a £50 voucher for Wayland Games. If you want to be in with a chance to win, pop a comment below this video on YouTube or over at OnTableTop.com, and sit back, relax, because your weekend starts here. Hello everybody and welcome to the Weekender. I'm joined this week by Ben and John.
I've done this before.
Yeah.
Somebody was about to shout Happy Sunday, weren't they?
I was, yeah.
And because he was motioning for it, I was gearing up for it.
Oh, dearie me, my. Take a week off, the whole place goes to pot. Huh?
It's because I've been ill, that's why.
That is true.
So, yeah.
You're dosed with the cold and hooked up on goofballs and lemsips.
Whoa, yeah.
Just be doing line after line of straight lemsip.
Yeah.
It's a terrible, terrible state to be in.
It's weird when you sneeze.
So you turn into Febreze lemon fresh or something.
Anyone walks past me.
Smog. Just a cloud. A lemony cloud.
Oh dear.
Oh, this is shocking. Have you been having a good week, gentlemen?
Yes.
I have.
Mostly, apart from being ill. Yeah.
Well, you can't have everything, can you? I can't have everything. I'm waiting on a massive amount of resin arriving.
Ooh.
I've been waiting on for a week and a half, and it's killing me. So much for 48-hour shipping. Lying sons of guns. I want my Saxon villages. What can I say? No reason. Don't worry about it.
I finished Cyberpunk Edgerunners, the anime, which may come up later in the show.
Very good.
And it's very good. It is very awesome. Absolutely loved it. And then made me go and play Cyberpunk 2077 for about 4 more hours. Again, this may be prevalent later in the show. So
Scrolls through running order.
Weirdly, I've been thinking about Spunk recently as well.
Oh,
Cyberpunk. That comes down to a terrain thing, though.
Oh,
Which actually, if people were paying attention, they will have seen.
It will be out this week.
The laser forged holographic buildings, which are in this box behind me. Hear that?
What a good sound!
It is a good sound. I could lift it up. Oh, I don't want to strain myself. It's very early. You go. Fine. Anyway, enough of that. We're going to press straight into the show, weirdly, and we'll kick things off, as always, with the news.
Coming to you from the center of Northwestern Europe. Covering board games, war games, card games, and all that you love. It's the news.
We're going to be looking at some almost cyberpunk-like mechs.
Very true. Yeah.
The big news out of Modiphius is they have Hardwar coming for the tabletop. This was originally a 3D printed set of STLs and a game by Stratos.
It was, yes.
So a hard sci-fi mech warrior game. Modiphius bought Strato minis last year, and this game will be launching later on this year, presumably via the medium of Kickstarter. I imagine.
It is, yep. Kickstarter. Yeah.
Look at that. Brrr. That's the noise that makes. It does look spectacular.
Insert warthog sound.
Yes. And the 2 factions that will be coming will be the Syndicate Task Force and the Consortium Security Squadron, which are 2 of about 7, he said in a high questioning voice, factions that currently exist within the rules themselves, which are already well established. They've had a supplement called No Heroes as well that was released as a PDF, and that is going to be sort of pulled together by Modiphius. They're going to combine Hardwar and No Heroes, give it a bit of a clean up and a tweak before doing final sort of production post the Kickstarter. So it will be a one-stop shop. As you see, they've got everything from gyroscopic flying types to big mechs to tanks, hover tanks, and infantry. I don't see any infantry in these pictures. However, there are infantry in one of the next pictures. Look at him being very Irby-like, isn't he?
Very Irby, yeah.
I really like the guy on the left-hand side. That's kind of got the proper arms and stuff. That's really
proper arms, and then like a spider set of 6 eyes.
Yeah,
An Infinity Tag meets Titanfall.
Very true, actually.
Yes.
Weirdly enough, I was trying to think of the name of it. Titanfall was in my head with the previous set of mechs, with the kind of ball camera style thing that they got going at the front.
But their mechs are like the full human.
Yes.
That's my description of human.
Human. that is the international sign language for human. Just next time the UN or, late night BBC 2 and you're watching a film and there's somebody in the bottom corner, watch out for them saying human. You'll find it's exactly the same as that. But I have to say that obviously Stratos have done all the heavy lifting on this over a couple of years now. So the designs for everything is keyed in. It will just be a case of production. Now I know, let's see, that there's infantry up there, which is why I know there's infantry kicking around. And also hiding behind these cars. But Stratos up until now have been STLs. I know Modiphius are pushing STLs via My Mini Factory this year. They're going to be launching their My Mini Factory shop if they haven't already.
I think some variant of it is up.
Something's up.
With some of the Fallout terrain, I think, on it. So
there'll be more coming, because that's going to be a big focus for them. So I don't know if this is going to remain STL only or if they will produce a physical range.
They're
to go
doing
along
a
with
starter
this.
set for it. So, which will be physical via the Kickstarter. So hopefully that'll follow through. I think they said it's retail friendly. So
yes, well, that's true. Yes, they have said specifically it will be retail friendly. So you'd have to imagine there will be a physical line alongside it. It may be a case then that they do both. They twin channel this. I will be fascinated to see what happens, because obviously last year Modiphius also released Full Spectrum Dominance. They published the physical book for Full Spectrum Dominance from the Lazy Forger, which is another mech heavy game.
In 6 mil.
In 6 mil. So now they have Full Spectrum Dominance and they have Hardwar. Full FSD is still the Lazy Forgers. It's just published in the same way that Modiphius published things like Rangers of Shadow Deep and stuff like that for other people. So maybe this is a case of they looked at that and went, you know what we need in our lives? We need some 6 mil mechs of our own.
Yeah.
This is a great way of doing it.
And if Strato have done all the hard work anyway, then it's just a case of condensing and revamping, I think.
I don't know how much they will condense. The original rules were a chunky tome, about 160 pages of rules, scenarios, and sort of mech designs and skills, traits, that sort of thing. So there's a certain amount of modularity and customization in your force composition. I'm going to assume all of that will stay, because otherwise it wouldn't be the same game. So I don't know if they're going to condense massively. It may just be a compilation and a brush down and maybe a bit of a tweakage. But it already looked pretty spanking.
Looks very nice, I've got to say. And the minis, as you say, they've been around for a while, and the quality from Strato is fantastic.
Yeah.
Could you be tempted by more mechs, John, considering you've got like a wall of Battletech sitting somewhere?
I don't know, because
what about just some tanks and artillery, John?
It all appeals to me on some level. But what I'm struggling with is
3 barrels.
What I'm struggling with is there isn't a single game that has everything I want all in one.
Right. Okay.
So I'm like having to pick and choose little bits from different games to try and like and hook into, but I don't.
We'll have to wait and see. When the Kickstarter rolls around and we see John pledging for it, then we'll know it's okay.
Yeah.
So. No more Kickstarter. No more.
No more mech-based Kickstarters.
Look at the missile-heavy sons of guns these are. Huh?
Catalyst.
They're so red alert. I love them.
They are.
Everybody, their dog has
Yeah.
got a battery of missiles on the back of their vehicles.
Nod tanks. There's
Oh, God,
basically
yes.
nod on the side, like those little
Yeah.
triangles. Just paint nod symbols on all of them.
Yeah. Oh my God, that'd be cool.
It's a good way to go. If you want to see more, you can go to the Stratos website. I will say everything is listed as sold out because obviously it's all now Modiphius, so you can't buy it, but you can see everything they've done in the past, and it is considerable.
All the other factions and stuff.
All the other factions that are ranged in there alongside the spaceships and the
Mhm.
atmospheric flyers and all of that jazz.
Very nice.
It's an all-round good time to be had by anyone.
Mm.
Obviously, they would be better if they weren't on those round bases, but one exists.
Hexes are the bestest.
Yes. It just makes sense.
It's all the angles of fire.
It just slowly contracts until you get the perfect square. Then you're sorted. Saying nothing. Saying absolutely nothing. I'm not really annoyed that I've got a load of hex-based spaceships that I use for A Billion Suns, and rather than being 60-degree fire arc at the front and 180 at the side, they use 45-degree, which is smaller than my front arc. I don't. I use 60 because I've got a hex base. I'm not going to use it. God damn it. Anyway. So yes, keep your eye out for Hardwar.
Yeah, looks really cool.
I'm assuming there's probably already groups and the like out there that are stuff full of people who've been playing it for a while. So you jump into one of those and start poking people with sticks and see what the game is like.
What's it like?
Yeah, it's worth it. Give me a go. Tell me what you're doing.
Let me spend
Leave
some
me
money.
alone. Sweet to the beat. Right.
Mm.
Sticking with sci-fi, but this
Yes.
time not the shiny hard, but the grim and
Yeah.
I'll say grim and they are the freshest.
They're the grim and ooh. So Warhammer 40,000 pre-orders are going to be coming up this weekend for the Emperor's Children army set, which is the first time that you're going to be able to get your hands on the Champions of Slaanesh for use in the Grim Dark Future in the new 10th edition of the game. When it comes to army sets, I'd say this one's actually probably one of the better ones. Previous army sets that they've done in the past don't really feel like they're in any way some kind of starting option. But at least with this, you get the HQ and 2 troops that you would
Wow.
sort of like consider classic to
Yes.
Warhammer 40,000. So in the set, you get the Lord Exultant, which is the new character miniature, the new Chaos Lord figure for use with the Emperor's Children. Comes with a bunch of different options, as you can see there. So if you did end up getting multiple sets of these, or if you've got a bunch of just random Space Marine parts, you could easily make a bunch of different Lord Exultants to sort of add onto your different units, if you saw fit, with various weapon options there. All looking very resplendent in their gorgeous armor that is painted in every color under the sun, which is befitting. So,
As the Panther once told me, think pink. Can't argue with him.
that needs to be a thing on a shoulder pad now. As well as the Lord Exultant, there are also your sort of elite troops, your sort of classic elite troops again, I suppose you'd say, for the Emperor's Children, with the sets of the Noise Marines there. So you get 2 sets of 6, giving you 12. I believe unit-wise, they can be taken in 3s and 6s. So it's pretty much going to give you, well, more than you can actually field, potentially. If you took them in 3s, that's more than you could field. If you took them in 6s, that's just not enough. You'd field full.
It's annoying that you can field them in 3s, though.
Yeah.
Slaanesh's number is 6. You would
so
think
it should just stay at 6.
it should just be
constantly.
6.
Yes. Who would have thought that lore and accuracy goes out of the way when it comes to Games Workshop?
You used to get bonuses if you were accurate to the numbers.
In
Fantasy anyway. I don't know about 40k because I never really played Chaos in 40k. But if you had your 8 for core and your 6 for Slaanesh or whatever, you got a bonus for your demons.
Don't worry, this is a conversation that is going around the Warhammer 40k community at the moment anyway.
Oh, is it?
about
Okay.
How
Look at me.
Games
Me
Workshop
with my
just
finger
sort
on
of
the pulse.
given up. They've given up on theme,
No?
but
All right,
anyway.
okay.
As well as the 2 sets of Noise Marines, there's also at least 20 Marines for you to build into either
Wow.
2 units of Tormentors or Infractors, or you can have 1 unit of Tormentors and 1 unit of Infractors. This essentially gives you your sort of ranged basic troops and your melee basic troops. the Emperor's Children, so you can decide to take them in whichever way you decide.
Debris.
I think the Emperor's Children stuff is probably one of the best revamps we've seen in a while for 40k. I mean, the Blood Angels were, well, not great, let's say. And even things like the Dark Angels didn't necessarily get themselves a massively nice update. But I think Aledari and, perversely,
Yes.
the Champions of Slanesh and the Emperor's Children have actually turned out really, really well.
The Eldar's failure, you mean?
Yes, yeah. I think they've got a lot of really nice options in the kit, and I think painting them in this way, I think, is a really cool idea. Sort of like mixing and matching the colors. I think you should go even further than that and throw in a whole bunch of other bits and pieces from the spectrum. Like the classic Noise Marine that was
Zebra stripes.
Years ago. Yeah, all the way.
Leopard patterns.
If they're not all punk rockers, I don't know what.
Yeah,
I don't know what
just
you're doing.
neon.
I don't even think they were
neon all the way.
There's a lot of glam rock going on. It was, yeah.
Big
Wasn't it?
hair, big attitudes, big. I won't finish that.
Everything. Yes.
Yep.
All of that and so much more.
Big feet.
Obviously, sorry, John, what was that? Sorry?
Big feet.
Oh, big feet.
feet.
Yes.
That's what you were trying. That's what you were.
That's what I
actually
meant.
saying.
Like
Yes, of
platform
course.
shoes, like
Yeah.
what a Noise Marine would wear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With little fish in the heels.
Mhm.
The set also comes with the codex as well, so you'll be able to get your hands on that for the first time. It's a limited edition version of that, obviously, but you'll be able to pick that up later in the future as well.
Is that
Obviously,
the Karl Krapinski artwork?
it is. I think it is, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
No, or is that Adrian
No.
Smith? Or is it Smith?
Can't remember.
or
It's been so
Krapinski?
long.
I can't remember.
It's quite an old piece now.
Yeah.
So
Nice
yes,
to see they're still rocking it out.
obviously with these, you don't need to get this. They will all be available in the future anyway. But if you're somebody who is desperate for the Emperor's Children, then you'll be able to get this by pre-ordering this weekend. I'm sure you'll be able to get quite a few of those. And this is one of the cases where 2 sets of that, probably not too bad for actually building a fairly sizable army. I mean, it'll cost you an arm and a leg, but, at least it'll give you all the basics.
one of the rare official codices off then to
make your money back.
people on the internet. Scalp your money back through other people on eBay who didn't get 2 copies.
Yeah, don't forget you're paying 30 quid for the codex to just basically open it to the back page, use the code on the Warhammer app, and have everything live
Pretty
updated
much.
as the points change anyway.
Yeah.
Because I just did that with Guard.
I did that with my Eldar. Talking of Eldar, there is also another...
Eldari TM, you mean?
I mean Aledari, sorry, yes.
Somebody pointed this out the other day and I can't not see it now. Eldar is just A-I. That's, you just take A, stick an I at the end, and you drop Eldar in the middle.
Oh, yeah. There you
And
go.
that's Eldari these days.
Well, they've probably been sculpted, but no.
So they've been,
Someone in the
AI
marketing...
buffed.
Someone in the marketing department really didn't have their coffee that day.
No, that's
I
true.
just went, I'm going to wing it and see what happens. And they went, print that.
So the new combat patrol that's coming out, again, actually not a bad starting combat patrol. A lot of them have been rather lackluster of late, but this gives you
3.6.
a sizable amount of options. You get the Spirit Seer, who obviously is going to be very good with the Wraith Guard there. The Wraith Blades, sorry, I should say. If you're using them as the actual combat patrol, although of course the Sprue comes with
dual
options
kit, so you can swap them.
want.
Yeah.
You've also got equally as old kits in the Dire Avengers, which is split into 2 units of 5 there, so you can use them to build up the Aspect Warrior element of your force. And if you were then going to sort of like go down the Baeltan route, you could easily do that because obviously you've got the Warp Spiders in there, the new lovely Warp Spiders,
Yes.
fit alongside their new Phoenix Lord miniature as well, which would be
A
gorgeous.
mere 30,
Something like that, yeah.
I want to say 30 years. I want to say they came out in 95. They might be 94.
I
Did
was
they
there.
not? Did they not go Finecast?
They did get Finecast.
Yeah, but then the molds never changed.
And then they disappeared.
So
And
it's
then they vanished,
this is the second iteration
Yes. Yeah.
of Warp Spiders in the entire history of the Eldar.
Yeah.
I mean, that's shocking.
As someone who already collects Iandan and already has a hell of a lot of Eldari, I'm actually quite tempted by this because I've always quite liked the Dire Avengers, but never really wanted to pay the stupid amount of money you have to pay for 5 of them. So rather, much better to just get them in the combat patrol and use that to build up your forces.
Just-
and I also get some more Wraithblades, which is no problem. So
It annoys me because that is a decent combat patrol.
yeah,
And
Yeah.
Guard got the worst combat patrol I've
really
ever
did.
seen.
yeah.
It was the most pointless pile of steaming cow dung I have ever seen.
Yeah.
It's like,
Would you
oh,
like some Rough Riders?
do you want to play Cadians? This is great. Have 10 Rough Riders.
Yeah.
No one cares.
And nobody wants.
Nobody wants. Because we're all going to stick them on bikes like I did.
Yes. Follow John's advice is
Yeah.
what I'd say.
Give GW more money and make the model better yourself. Don't give in to their
They just don't-
stupid combat patrol idea.
They
No,
do still have melter bombs, though, don't they? Rough
On the end of
Riders.
their
It's a
spears,
melter
yeah,
bomb
yeah.
on the end of a stick.
Yeah,
more or less.
You know, it's not the worst in the world.
better on bikes.
They are.
Well,
Why give us a combat patrol with a Till and Rough Riders in it when you've just given us a box that has fucking Death Riders in it?
Yep.
Clearly the superior cavalry
The last combat patrol was way better.
was
Great.
You could buy 2 of them and have an army.
You could. Oh, well. But yes, this combat patrol is available to pre-order this weekend as well, if you wanted to dive into the grimdark future of 140,000.
when did those Warp Spiders come out? Is this the first time they're coming out? Because I can't remember seeing them. Did they arrive
came-
whenever I was on holiday? Because I don't have one of those.
They must have done.
often.
Weren't they in a... No, they weren't in a Kill Team box, were they?
No, the Striking Scorpions were in the Kill Team box.
Yeah.
The Warp Spiders came out with the Swooping Hawks and all the rest of them a couple of weeks ago when the Aledari released, yeah.
So I was off.
You were probably off.
They snuck them in undercover.
But don't
maybe
worry,
off.
don't worry, Jerry.
I won't.
Caradras is gone. He's vanished.
All-
The
well,
Striking
altogether.
Scorpions are here, but he's not in the
But
codex.
the Phoenix Lord's gone.
And the Phoenix Law model's gone because you can't have them all in one place because obviously then you get the terrible end times.
It's all
But
right.
that's just a weird reason for them to be like, crap, we forgot to put him in. So
No, they're going... We're bringing out a campaign book later in the year. Where do you see him return? Because
Exactly.
that's how we market stuff.
The alternative
Yeah.
is, and we all know it's there. He's not the original Phoenix Lord.
he's not. No, it's
The original Phoenix Lord, Doff,
Drazar.
and
Yeah.
Drazar, Master of the
Yeah.
Blades,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
started the Incubi for the Dark Eldar.
Mm.
So
Maybe
maybe he'll
puts
come back
helmet
to the
back on.
fold.
That'd be cool.
Maybe the Striking Scorpions are going Yanari then instead. Maybe there's going to be a...
Ooh. That would be nice.
Just give us our Dragon Riders for the Exodites. Nobody cares about Craft Worlds.
They'll
Just
never
Give us
do-
Exodites.
They'll never do Exodites. They'll never do Dark Mechanicum. They'll never do Traitor Guard because they're
You're just mean to me, Ben.
bastards.
They've done Traitor Mechanicum
In black.
for
In Blackstone Fortress.
Blackstone.
in Heresy.
Oh, I suppose they have actually. Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
True.
It's a good testing ground for whatever they can hawk us in 40k.
Yeah. Do it again.
Do it again, but make more skulls on it.
No, you're okay.
Uh,
Skulls are sufficient. Sufficient amount of scullery.
yes, pre-orders available for all of those this weekend. So check them out on Saturday morning. There
Yep.
you go.
Sweet to the beat. Right. Away from the sci-fi, John, and into historics, where you like to live.
Yeah.
Where I like to live and where all these companies just seem to keep trying to ram plastic down my throat every other week. And I'm like, yes, I like World War II. Yes, I like all these scenarios and places and campaigns and stuff. I don't need it over and over again. But, Victrix has just come out with, their 12 mil British 8th Army. And they're trying to give me excuses to get back into the desert for some reason. Victrix, I'm on to you. This is all a weird conspiracy.
You two can do it at a proper scale.
Yes, an actual scale that is not only in millimeters, but in fifths.
Fifths. That is the purest of scale.
And it's
The
an
human
official
fifths.
fifths. 144s of them, apparently. It's a good day to be me.
That's my favourite.
So you can get 164 of them in this, and as always, tons of options in there for your weapons and your outfits and stuff like that. Obviously, because it's British in the desert, it's clearly North Africa and Italy. So fighting through Sicily and into Italy, and after taking Rommel and going, "You're a very bad fox, aren't you?" and then throwing him to the hounds because that's how that ended.
That's a very different Disney movie.
It's a very different. That ended different.
I would love to see a Fox and a Hound where somebody has gone in and replaced the fox with Rommel.
The end of the movie is just someone reaching over his shoulder going, "You've been indicted in a plot to kill the Fuhrer." It's like, and that's how the friendship ended. Funnily enough, I don't have a lot to say about these because they're solid little models. There's tons of them in the set. We all know British North Africa by this stage, and if you don't, I mean, welcome to the 21st century where you can find history absolutely everywhere these days. You can turn over a rock and find a history book about Britain and North Africa.
They are really nice sculpts. And obviously, even though we're saying they're British, States Army, so
it's a bit of everything.
There's Anzac Canadians there as well, going in through North Africa and Italy. So they could be used for a multitude of Commonwealth forces if you want. I've played around with the Germans in their 5th scale. And the figures are absolutely gorgeous. This one pushes it on a bit because there's quite a lot of infantry support weapons on this that the Germans, which were one of the first out of the traps, didn't have. So you've got a sort of a infantry anti-tank gun. There's a mortar, which I think the Germans had that as well anyway.
There's 2-inch mortars as well.
Minesweeper.
I like the Minesweeper.
Yeah, which is just really nice for playing around in Tobruk. And then you've got your
Bren Gunners and Vickers.
Yeah, Vickers with your machine and even a anti-tank rifle. So
a chap lies down. Very good. Yeah, very good.
It's a good spread of figures for it.
Yeah,
I do keep looking at the stuff from Victrix because if you're going to be playing a big sweeping game like this in North Africa, it is really, really good to have a smaller scale available. And it bridges the gap between 6mm, which is nearly all, it is pretty much 100% metal across the board, the micro armor style of thing. There's a bit more detail in the plastics. It makes putting your force together a bit easier. The fact that there's 164 odd figures in the bag,
insane amount,
means you're firing out, a company's worth of men quite happily. And depending on the game you're playing, that could be easily set up as like one bag would probably pretty much do the majority of your gameplay. If you're playing something like Battle Group, things like that, where you don't need a ton of stuff, but you just descale everything like a kettle. Just descale it all. But because it is 1/4, it does mean that you can go hunting for bits and pieces via scale modeling, railway modeling, that sort of thing. Much easier than trying to find anything in our own wargaming. I use the scale quite wrongly. Scale, because wargaming isn't a scale, it's a measurement. 28mm isn't it's not comparable to anything in scale modeling. It's a thing unto itself, and therefore you have to buy bespoke bits and pieces. Whereas at least when it actually is scaled correctly, you can go out there and look for bits and pieces, which makes life much easier in the long run.
And you can do Weird War because it's a Gundam scale too.
Oh, I not even thought about
Gundam in the desert.
144. It is a Hithis scale.
Oh,
oh my god! What did they find under the sand? An old Gundam, and they activate it. Oh my god! And the Gundams are called Fox and Hound.
Because that's something that's probably likely to happen, isn't it? To be fair,
really
it is pretty much,
really does sound like it's turning into some sort of weird AI generated movie at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you want to find out more about AI, join us on Sunday.
Yes. I will also note that they've added in the 8th Army stuff now. They are going to be bringing the Africa Corps stuff as well out in the future. So you'll be able to watch out for that and have the other side.
I imagine it won't be far away.
Oh no, they work at a rate of knots. So
I'm sure they walk fast too.
But yeah.
They walk faster.
Yeah,
and they run harder and produce plastics more.
Yes.
All of that and so much more. Right. Clearly the news is having an effect on us. Let's take a break. When we return, we'll Indie of the Week. Okay, folks, we're back for Indie of the Week, and this week, our Indie is very cyberpunky.
Oh, it is. God, I'm so obsessed at the moment.
I assume so. We didn't want to mention it. This isn't actually a weekender this week. This is an intervention, Ben.
What you can't see is that underneath this table, I have Ethernets in all sorts of places. There's like cables going in. I'm like jacked in.
Jacked in and jacking off. I can't say that. What?
It doesn't help that when I first read the running order with this indie, I misread the first word of it. I completely got it wrong and was like, oh, I can't say that.
Right. Shall we put people out of our misery?
Yes.
We are going to be looking at human interface.
Yeah.
Give us a hint.
Yeah. Other reasons though. So this is human interface, which used to be called Human Interface Nakamura Tower, where the name HINT comes from, the acronym. But this is a cyberpunk game by the folks at Postindustrial Games, but also by extension, Unit 9 as well, who kind of help with the development of all this and the miniatures and all that kind of thing. And we'll look at the Patreon later when it comes to that. But the actual sort of core of their game is effectively a board game. It's solo cooperative, but it also has versus elements in it as well, if you wanted to go down that route. There used to be a game many years ago at this point, oh my God, it's showing our age, called Nakamura Tower. And the whole idea was that you were playing as a bunch of cyberpunks, edgerunners, who were infiltrating the tower, fighting their way to the top, getting all the data, and getting out.
Did it start as a CCG, or did it start as a board game? Because Nakamura Tower, it was a CCG as well, wasn't it?
I possibly.
I have a sneaking suspicion that may have come first and things may have developed from there.
But that has evolved over the years, and the newest offering from the guys at Postindustrial and Unit 9 is Be a Better Human, which is this new set that we're looking at here. Now, the core of the gameplay is still very similar, so it still can be played solo, can be played cooperative, can also be played in a versus format. Be a Better Human, and the set that's available at the moment is both standalone, but also an expansion for Nakamura Tower. So if you wanted to dive in and play the game for the first time, this is obviously a great entry point. It's the one that's available right now anyway. And there will probably be more in the future as well, I would say. But it also works as an expansion if you already have Nakamura Tower sitting somewhere in your collection as it stands. There's a really interesting set of mechanics to HINT. It's mostly card driven, with the use of you sort of deciding on particular actions, be it shooting or hacking and all that kind of thing, and then flipping from a deck, which then gives you bonuses to your roll effectively to see
he's hacking.
On top. He is hacking shooting? Quite literally with a.
That's what you mean?
Yes, this is exactly what I mean.
Okay. I'm on board.
That's acoustic hacking, that's called.
It is, yeah. And gameplay is actually really relatively quite simple. It's a proper sort of like run and gun style game, where the action is very sort of like pop and sort of like go running through corridors, blasting things. You can do a lot of kind of actions within actions in the game. So you can move, fire your guns, fire off a quick hack, and then keep running and dive behind cover and all that kind of thing. So they've really tried to go for that sort of slightly more cinematic angle to things. The majority of the games you'll be playing, especially if you go into it from a solo or cooperative point of view, is some of you will be playing as the Edrunners, the cyberpunks effectively, and then you'll be going against an AI-driven corpo side, or they might be cyber psychos and all sorts of different things in between, military-grade robots and all sorts of stuff like that. And there's a variety of different narrative scenarios for you to dive into and things like that too. One of the nice things about it as well is that they've really gone to town on the... That feels like a very early Rebecca, going back to the Cyberpunk Edrunners. There we go. But one of the nice things about it is they've really gone to town on like pushing the cyberpunk element of this. So the way that it kind of breaks down is you have sort of like an initiative phase, so you've got to go first, followed by like a a net running phase, for want of a better word, where you'll actually do almost like a little tiny sort of mini game where you'll draw cards from a deck that will give you certain programs that you're able to use, and then you'll play them out, and using the card system, which then gives you bonuses and stuff and minuses and things like that, that'll dictate whether or not you're able to sort of like install your hardware. And this also means you'll be breaking ice and sort of like putting in things that could shut down the sensors or the cameras in a particular yes, I know. In a particular room and all sorts of things like that.
I'm such a child.
And all of this flows together to create this really interesting sort of take on Cyberpunk, not necessarily in a miniatures wargaming space, but in one that is a slightly more sort of like board gamey in that style. That doesn't mean that you can't go down the wargaming side of things. You can dive in and play this versus. So you basically you essentially pick teams like you would do if you were diving in and playing it by yourself, but you then go up against each other. So rather than having to rely on the AI to decide what particular units are going to do and sort of what they're going to be sort of breaking into and their behavior patterns, it basically just comes down to your opponent deciding how they want to screw you over, essentially.
Nice.
And the Be a Better Human set is kind of like the starting point of all that, but they have been doing this for like a while.
Yeah.
And there are lots of different squad packs and all sorts of different things that you'll be able to pick up. And the majority of the stuff that they do really kind of hits on all the kind of beats that you'd expect from Cyberpunk. So you have your kind of like standard Edrunners, Cyberpunks, you have your Corpo units, and they're split down amongst a variety of different things. So you have your kind of classically Japanese samurai styled factions. You have your sort of like Tiger Claw Chinese and all that kind of thing. You have your various types of corpo. So you've got like your Militech style thing from Cyberpunk Ret.
Heavy hazmat, please. Open the heavy hazmat, please.
I'll be there in a moment. Okay. I love them.
Yeah.
Your law enforcement officers.
The fact they're all battening the shit out of someone.
Yeah, they've been to a rave clearly as well. They've got those little visors. They've pulled it down over their faces.
They must be German.
They must be, yeah. And their miniature design is just absolutely gorgeous. I mean, back when we initially looked at Human Interface Nakamura Tower, we were like blown away by it kind of aesthetically.
That's been a hot minute, mate.
We talked about it in a roll together, if you remember the magazine that we did, and we did a really good interview with the designers behind the game. I still have those PDFs on my computer somewhere.
I'd never seen an issue
Rhino
of that.
Heavy Hazmat. Is that what you said?
Yes, please.
Yeah. How cool are those?
Oh, yeah. Buying a set of those.
Mm. And what's really interesting about this is obviously, I mean, we're looking through the miniatures now, is that yes, they can be used for Hint and their games, but their collection is the basis for a lot of people going and playing a variety of other kind of like cyberpunk games that are out there at the moment. Like I know one that's a favorite of yours, Jerry, is Codeblade.
Blades.
And that's one of the games where you can use whichever miniatures you like, effectively. And a lot of people go and pick up stuff from the folks at
Papskill and people like that, and all things. Yeah, there's tons of fun to be had.
Use for these. And as I say, like I mean, there's 2 or 3 pages of these. They've recently had their winter sale, which is why all of the boxes
out,
are mostly out of. But they are stupidly cheap. A lot of their stuff that they've.
It is very reasonable.
Yeah, the actual Be a Better Human set, I think, is
Ginger.
Is only $30, which is stupid.
Where are we? Be a Better Human board game. That one.
Yes,
I know this because somebody in the Codeblade Discord was going, if I buy this, I can use these for Codeblade, can't I?
There you go.
Yes, you can.
Yeah. I will point out.
You go right ahead while we look at Ginger.
You keep looking through the minis. This is the best thing. I will point out. So, obviously, as I said, there's a sort of clean set of rules that they've designed for the game that you can dive into and play. But the community of, I mean, that's just gorgeous. Oh God, imagine that landing on the roof of a building, blasting some people off the side of it. Very cool.
Also, now you have to do this at home because you're not looking at my hand. But if you put your hand over the rest of the body and just leave yourself this bit, That looks not dissimilar to a Mantic Enforcer helmet.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
And
Yeah,
I will
see it.
100% be adding these
There you go.
to my Enforcer Force. Anyway.
But anyway, yes, sorry. So the community around the game, there are a few sort of like, I'll say idiosyncrasies to the rules that have never really truly been ironed out. And so I went hunting online, and over on Board Game Geek, there's a couple of people who have put together an interesting thread, which is called Be a Better Board Game.
Yes.
Which is very funny. And they have designed a set of fan rules. So essentially the core of what Postindustrial were trying to achieve, that's always a hazard to go down that end of something.
Yes.
What Postindustrial were trying to achieve with the game is still core to what they've been doing with the rules, but they've essentially gone through and streamlined and updated and tweaked a bunch of stuff. So that things like the Netrunner phase and the general flow of combat feels like it works a little bit better. There's also, I think, been a couple of things where translation has sometimes been an issue between or the way that certain things are described for the game, and they've gone through and they've kind of revamped and changed all that. So there will be a link to those fan rules in the description down below, so you can go and check those out and see what you think of them. But as we were saying, there's no reason why you can't use all of the stuff that we're seeing here for a variety of other games like Codeblade, which I'll also put a link down below for as well. I might even put in Jerry's interview that he did at UKG last year, because it was a very good one. Got me excited when I went back to the hotel room yesterday. Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah. You will also see, as Jerry is looking through here, that they have a Patreon. So if you are somebody who wants to dive into the 3D printing side of things, or you have a 3D printer, or you know somebody who does, they do a selection of themed sets over the course of months, where they'll bring together a bunch of different miniatures from their collection, some old, some new, and they will sort of package them up in a sort of themed bundle, so that you'll be able to drop them into your games. And obviously, again, you could use these for Hint, or you could use them for Codeblade and everything else in between. The stuff they've done recently is absolutely brilliant. I really like I can't remember which month it was. I think it was January. Was a not January. December was their media team. That's the one there. So it's kind of like all your classic medias from Cyberpunk 2020, 2077, Red, etc. Going out and getting the scoop whilst also protecting themselves while they're in a hot corpo war zone. So
they're not getting the scoop. All they're doing is making themselves a target, because quite frankly, when my crew's doing anything, the last thing we want is a video evidence.
Yes.
That we were doing it.
Punched in the side of the face by an edge runner.
Yep.
Yeah.
Witnesses.
It's lovely. Yeah.
The thing I like about Hint, apart from the minis, is how they've managed to incorporate the edge running. Because the whole point of Cyberpunk and the thing that it does well / trickily is the integration of the idea of getting inside a machine. And when Cyberpunk came out in the 80s, when I started playing it in the early 90s, that was always the hardest part.
What? Because one player would have to sit down with the GM for about 4 hours.
Exactly.
Doing the running scene.
Yeah. Which meant it often got ignored or glossed over. And more the focus was on people in the real world, punching people in the face, calling it a trauma team and then trying to steal their hover vehicle, because it was a really nice hover vehicle, but Jesus, they're well armed. So making the integration, having that edge runner phase to actually go, you're not just playing a sci-fi skirmish game, you're specifically playing a cyberpunk game that has that aesthetic, that genre connection in there, which is great. He gets shot immediately.
It's one of the things that's quite interesting. It's one of the things that has been an interesting talking point within the community for Hint, is that phase, because Postindustrial clearly wanted to put it into the game for that exact reason, because that's one of the main driving forces of what Cyberpunk is about. It's about dealing with things in the cyberspace as well as in the real world, the meat world, effectively. And I think where people took a little bit of umbrage with it was that if you were doing a versus game, one player who may have taken Netrunners, but then the person didn't, basically had an entire phase to do stuff that they didn't have any interest in.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're playing a solo cooperative format, it wasn't necessarily much of an issue because you would all be working together. You could all look at the deck at the same time and make decisions at the same time alongside the netrunner doing some particular things. And so that's where they've kind of come in and played around with the fan rules, but it's still a major part of that, which as I say, I think is a really key point to the game. So yeah, very
cracking stuff. If people are interested, Code Blade,
which won an award.
It didn't, annoyingly.
Did it not? Was it just nominated?
It was nominated and lost out to Hobgoblin.
That wasn't even available to buy.
It was. They brought a limited run because you have to be available to buy to win.
Oh,
and they had a small amount.
Too much then.
Yeah, I do. But so they were shortlisted for best new game. But it's different, interesting. Obviously, it's like all games are miniature agnostic. But the gig with Codeblade is the objectives change. There's constant evolving, changing objectives every turn. So you're playing a very tight, constricted board with lots of heightened levels.
2x2 is it or something like that? I think.
Yeah.
Or is it?
Yeah. 2x2x2x3, whatever you want. But height is important because you don't know what the next objective is going to be when the turn comes in. And you can suddenly find yourself in a position where the objective might be jump off the tallest point on the board. So if you've got everybody on ground level shooting at people and your opponent has somebody up top, walk off.
Get a bin.
Yeah, the floor is lava. So it's an incredibly dynamic game.
Yeah.
That's kind of selling it short, but it's a fascinating little constricted game, but very dense, tight cyberpunk aesthetics to it as well. So there's a lot of factions. There's a new one that they're working on at the moment as well. So you can find things like Iron Samurai in this, and they play, there's asymmetric play style in there. So being able to go into something like Hint and grab yourself somebody who's a bit Japanesey, like whatever the Black Lotus faction or whatever happens to be, and find corporate mobs or edge runners, whatever happens that takes your fancy.
Some Arasaka types,
yeah. They're all good. So Codeblade's a great thing. It's just pick up one book and it has all the rules in there, so you can play around. There you go, Iron Samurai. Play around to your heart's content in that world.
Yeah, just use the themes that they've sort of like hinted at in the minis and things and the artwork and stuff, and then go that way. So
compliance officers stay the hell away from them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have to say, cyberpunk, I think it's not a forgotten genre. It's a genre that was very big 80s post Blade Runner and kind of fell away. Modern people, I think, have a better idea of what a cyberpunk world is because, bearing in mind, when we started playing Cyberpunk, there wasn't an internet. So these concepts...
It's now at least past 2020 now.
You were trying to work out what a computer integrated world would be. We have that now, and we have VR as actual things that exist. So being able to engage people in the idea of what cyberpunk edge runners would be doing is much easier. It's a much easier proposition these days.
You probably had a fair stab at it when the original Tron came out. Like, what would the inside of a computer program look like?
100%. I was
crack. It would look like crack.
Anytime I got Tron up there.
The answer, crack.
Tron, he fights for the users.
Yes.
Tron and Rinsler up there. But yeah, that's pretty much what I based them on. But yeah, it's definitely worth exploring. And Hint or human interface, if I drop the int. We've added and taken away an int this week.
HIBABHS.
Yes,
Hibabath
bunk. So it's definitely worth
word of the week.
It's an interesting game to get involved in, and just an interesting genre to explore. I think more people should be getting involved with.
Almost two indies in one there. Bit of Codeblade. Bit of hint at the same time. Boom. Nice.
We'll have to get. I mean, honestly, you really. If I just pick one of these things up, then you could see just how shiny they were. That's what the future is. That's what Cyberpunk's all about. I have to put it away now. It's too much for you.
You just jingled keys in front of me. I locked in like a cat.
I think we'll calm John down with some nip, and we'll be back for some more news in just a second.
Even more news, bitches.
Okay, our second batch of news. And first off, one from Wargames Atlantic. Last year, they released 2 boxes, your Ashiguru and your Samurai, for their grand battle scale.
Yes.
Which is very much the up-and-coming thing. I hear 10 mil, not heroic 10, not sub-heroic 15, or whatever that ridiculous scale is. Actual 10 mil that matches other 10 mil that people produce for 10 mil, which is what we want to see. And they, at the time, asked what should go on a sprue for command options. People suggested things. Hudson looked at that and went, yeah, sure, why not? And and they're putting together the Commander's box, which will be absolutely jam-packed with everything you need to put your commanders, your signalers, runners, aide-de-camp, if you will, onto the table for feudal Japan. So if you're looking for a whole host of things for your grand battle samurai, this will have it. Both, say samurai, also commanders for the Ashiguru. The sets, I think it's only 1 sprue, but the sprue itself is absolutely packed full of stuff. So it contains enough that you can have 2 of the big taiko drums,
cool.
Along with drummers, so you can have 2 on each side. 4-foot and 2 mounted messengers. Jimaku sections, which is that delightful little thing we've seen there.
Jamiroquai sections? Wow.
No.
You're going deeper underground.
Not the twat in the hat. You'll also have your daimos standing and seated and start virtual insanity across the thing. Banners come in a variety of flavors. The Uma Jirushu, which are the horse banners, the horse standards, which are the smaller square ones. So your cavalry options, including the little baggy fellows. And then also the Hatata Jirushu. So the signal banners that were used for actual regiments, which are the big up top ones.
Very nice.
Couple of flavors there, 3-man and 2-man. Obviously the individual strips on the original sprues are either a full 5, a 3, a 2, or 1. And so because you can divide up the individual infantry in a variety of ways, they've given you the option here with a 3-man section and a 2-man section. So you can have your spare figures to either side of those, depending on how you've based things, rather than having you left with odd numbers of figures at the end of the day, which is a nice way of doing it there. Thinking ahead. So whether you've gone with a 2 on each side, or you've already got a couple of singles, or whatever it happens to be, you can base them relevantly. They do look absolutely spot on. I love the little signalmen there out with their fans.
They're really, really well done.
They are absolutely beautiful. I can't be 100% certain, but I think one of our community members painted these.
Huh. That's cool.
Because I did see, the trader, Alfonso
of the traitorous kind.
Yes. Who's done a ton of samurai in 28 mil, and then obviously started doing the 10 mil stuff that was absolutely superb. I seen him painting some of these up, and I'm going, they're not released yet. And I can only assume off the back of seeing the work he'd done.
In the massive project,
somebody had sent him some test sprues to do a bit of painting. I don't know if these are they. I would have to go back and double check what he's been up to. But they are absolutely corking.
Shows off what the kind of speed paints can do on those little minis as well.
Yeah.
Really nice.
Fascinated to see what they do with the rule set, because Andy Hobday is working on some rule sets for them, and I assume a grand battle one will be amongst those. It would
It's
make
definitely fantasy coming down the road, isn't there? So
at that point, all you have to do is take the dragons out, and you've got historics.
I would imagine this kind of gives us an idea of the DNA of what they'll do with other 10 mil stuff. Like they'll give us an elite box, like a more sort of standard foot troop box, and then a command box. And that could potentially just give you what you need for orcs or dwarves or elves or
dwarves,
whatever.
Because I know all three of those are hot on the heels. As far as design wise, I think the Norks have already been shooing about the place. Having some elite types, and I mean, obviously we're looking at this from a point of view of humans, where they've gone samurai and ashiguru. However, that orc box could be orcs, goblins.
Yeah.
Doesn't need to be elite and regulars.
True.
It could be two independent but cooperative races, shall we say. So that there's potential in there. Dwarves and stilts. Not stilts. Well, paint cans with strings attached to make you taller.
Why is this sprue just full of boxes? It's so you can see over the wall,
Exactly.
Legolas suggested. So.
Up for pre-order already
Today.
and with quite a quick turnaround on it. To be fair, Wargames Atlantic are knocking stuff out so quickly I can't even keep up with the releases as far as unboxings go. If I close my eyes for a minute, another box arrives. I say, I must keep doing. The churn is brutally fast, but this is Hudson getting up to where he wanted to be several years ago, and they were delayed because of the event. So it just goes to show what they could do when they put their mind to it.
Yeah.
I believe they've also revamping the Legion. No, not the Legion. Legion's the
Ram Yalga, whatever they're called.
No.
The original ones? No?
No. Not revamping as in models.
Oh, okay.
Revamping as in the Vox Populi.
Oh, right.
It's getting a tweak. So if people are unaware of it, there's a thing where you can essentially buy vouchers that you can spend in the store. But when you buy vouchers, you get votes for upcoming projects, and it sort of pushes them up the chain. So something that might be only going into tooling in a year's time, if enough people are after it and go, well, we'll give you 15 quid's worth of vouchers. You can either hang on to them and then buy the box when it comes out, or you can just go, sod it, give me 15 quid's worth of box now.
How the early World War II British got added?
The BF got jumped massively up the queue for that reason. I will find out what they're doing to Vox Populi, and I'll update you next week. Let's say next week.
There we go. There'll be another box set out. So
there'll be another box. We'll be talking about something else. Skeleton Army arrived at my house, and I'm going, oh Jesus, look at the size of that. Right, I have to do some dry
Don't
dead
let
now.
Lloyd know.
Say nothing that casual. But yeah, I'm very excited to see what they do with the 10 mil stuff at the grand scale, because it is just not different. Tons of 10 mil stuff out there, but another strand to their bow. They're not fixated solely on what can we do in 28 mil all the time.
Yeah.
Obviously there's a ton of people who just stay in the 28 mil sphere, but if you fancy doing a bit of the smaller scale stuff, then I think 10s are the way to go. There's some cracking games out there for it. Yeah. So yes, keep your eye out for the little samurai commands.
Yeah.
Right. Speaking of 10 mil.
Yeah. And cracking games.
We're very small this week.
We are. We've got. This is why my hint edition was in there to be like, don't worry, guys. We're still talking about 28 and 32 mil stuff. Don't worry. There'll be things in the Kickstarters later as well, so we're all good. But if you like small stuff, this is definitely the episode for you.
Story of
my life. Aircraft are coming to the world of Armoured Clash and the dystopian age towards the end of March, with a new set of previews popping up from the folks at Warcradle Studios for Armoured Clash. They have shown off fighters for all 4 of the core factions of the moment. So you're going to get some options for the Crown, the Empire, the Union, and the Enlightened. We've got the Defiance there, which is the fighter variant. They already have like a bomber option available to the Crown that you will potentially have seen in things like Dystopian Wars and stuff. But this is their kind of upgunned, as you can see there with the tail gunner version, for use as a fighter. Very good at kicking ass and taking names, watching over your troops on the tabletop, which is always good. Love the kind of RAF style theming to it. It's a nice little touch.
Roundrels.
So, yes.
Isn't
it's a
there?
good little bonus.
Yeah.
Alongside that, you've also got the Doksuri fighter for the Empire. So this is their sort of like crazy modern-ish take on a fighter for the dystopian age. I really like that they're taking aesthetics from like the entire span of kind of late 1800s and throughout the 1900s with this, and bringing together loads of sort of interesting, weird ideas. Because the dystopian age, like a lot of people just think of it as like Victoriana
steampunk,
but it's actually a lot more sci-fi than you'd think, which is quite a cool little addition, I think.
I'm sure I've seen this aircraft.
It probably does it. I think it exists without the massive turbine on the back.
The massive turbine.
There is a push twin boom plane.
Yeah,
around. I can't remember the name of it. Although the general layout is very similar to the Vixen and Vampire.
It looks vampire-ish. Yeah,
it does look a bit vampire-ish.
Yeah. But gorgeous little one there. It kind of comes. What's really nice about this is that I think it draws a little bit more on their from the Korean side of the Empire. So it's not just focusing solely on the idea of like China, Japan. They're also bringing in
this was something James and Parker said when I was chatting to them before the release of Armoured Clash.
Yeah,
that the Empire would eventually see all of the disparate groups that make up the Empire having more of a focus in some, because some will be more aircraft, some will be more ship based, some will be more land based. So it
very nice
sense.
One there as well, and very different, obviously, from what we've seen for the Defiance. You then have the Corsair, which is the Union craft, which is absolutely brilliant looking as well.
I'm also gonna be a little bit harsh with this and say it's the laziest of the lot,
because it just looks like a normal plane.
It is just a Corsair.
Why, yes,
it is literally just a Corsair.
Yeah. In the background to this, they said that the Corsair pilots are like manic and they love combat. And so they fly at like they fly faster than a lot of other aircrafts, and they are not above just drilling their opponents with
bullets
and then flying planes into things, which I thought was kind of cool.
It's very...
You just do like a stagger down. You're straight in, and then you hope that the plane that you're shooting explodes before you would actually contact.
You go through the smoke like a badass. That's exactly how the Corsair works. Yeah.
Very on the nose for what the Union is.
Yes.
There's also the Scythe drone, which is obviously very different again in design.
The Dorito.
Yeah, it's the Dorito that you'd phone up the company about to be like, look, I found a really strange one.
This one glows and speaks in a weird language.
Yeah, can I get a prize for this? So the Scythe drone is been designed as like a proper badass sort of like beam weapon style craft.
Oh yeah,
that
it's got the arc on the front.
Mm-hmm. That'll be sort of raking the ground as it flies forward. I love that kind of inner turbine element, so you get the idea that it could potentially hover as well as fly forward, which is a really nice little touch. Has a tendency to explode when destroyed, so rather than just crashing to the ground, it actually fully just blows up and hopefully takes out a couple of their enemies at the same time, because why would the Enlightened care? You can just make sure you've got some more drone pilots ready.
You can recycle those things.
Yeah.
You can recycle the pilot and the craft into one thing.
You could, easily.
It's great.
Yeah.
Every part of the Buffalo is used.
They are so green. In more ways than one. So yeah, all of these aircraft are going to be out for the core factions, as I say at the moment, towards the end of March. Most likely, as we have had with the Union and the Enlightened, we'll be getting beta rules for these in the coming weeks. So watch out for those, and you'll be able to add them into your forces and use them on the tabletop. They work in very interesting ways, and there are also some tweaks and things to the actual factions to deal with aircraft at the same time.
All of a sudden, all the people who've put their armies together and didn't bother with AK.
Yes.
They're
Like, oh, God. It's an arms race. I will also say, in addition to what we've seen there for the fighters, there are a bunch of reinforcements for Armoured Clash coming your way as well. So if you're somebody who wants to build on some of the sets that you potentially picked up when the Enlightened first came out, you can also get your hands on the likes of the Wells Battle Group. There's also armoured regiments and infantry regiments as well. So plenty of different sets there that will give you kind of like the elite elements of the Enlightened. So the big walkers and that gorgeous resin miniature there. Very wiki wild west.
wiki wild wow.
We will never forget that film. It will never disappear from people's meme consciousness.
Nobody's seen it, mind you. But
It's become a core part of steampunk.
It has, yeah. It's had so much more of an influence than Will Smith realized. Do not take that woman's take my wife's name out of your mouth.
Artemis Crabfrog.
Welcome to Earth.
Yeah.
The thing that gets me, right,
yes,
is there's a couple of little flyers there with the tiny little fellows. That's the same size base. So those flyers are much bigger.
Yes.
I'm all I can think is it a forced perspective thing?
I think
Have they
it's
gone, those are on the ground, your planes are technically much closer to you looking down, therefore they're bigger models?
Yeah, I think it's an abstraction thing that they've worked in because you only get one per set. So I think it's meant to sort of give you that idea of kind of like how where the aircraft is positioned rather than necessarily sort of like its scale as appropriate to everything else.
Yeah, but if you look down and you see your plane's massive, and then just in front of them there are little people, it's because they're on the ground.
Yes.
I like that.
Yeah. We'll have to talk to the designers and find out a little bit more about it.
But to be fair, why would you want to paint tiny little models of very nice looking aircraft?
Very true.
Yeah. Perspex shelf about 30 to 40 centimeters above your gaming
and
table.
Have all the aerial stuff.
Have all the aerial stuff on there.
It also means your opponent can't touch your weird stuff on the tabletop because he's got the Perspex thing in the way.
They can't spit on them.
They can't spit on it. Yeah. It's the subway method. Loads of stuff coming out for Armoured Clash with all those different fighters and obviously the different regiment box sets as well there. Again, the way that Armoured Clash is built, it's basically just done off the sprues essentially, so you can just use these as an easy way to multiply your units for playing the bigger games.
Small, medium, and large.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
1 box, 2 box, 3 box.
There you go. Boston.
That's simple.
Gorgeous stuff there for the Enlightened and beyond. So have a peek at that. The order's coming up very, very soon.
They used to be pilots, and those visors used to be part of their cockpit. And now they're still on the battlefield fighting. Yay! Right.
I used to be a soldier like you.
I took a Corsair to the knee.
Oh, sucks to be them. Right. We are going to look at one more bit of news. And shockingly, we're going to go for a bigger scale. 15 mil this time. For novelty value, I assume, if nothing else. Khurasan are up to some fun and games. Jonathan.
Yes, they are. As we said, we're stepping up a little bit by going to 15 mil now. And I see why this was put into the news for me, although I question your motives, Ben. Are you trying to get me to play other games in smaller scales now? Is this what you're... Right, okay. Yeah. So he sold this to me because he was like, it'd be good for Middle Earth. And I was like, Middle Earth's fine, but Middle Earth ain't 15 mil. Dude, so what are you trying to say to me?
The Riders of Nahor.
I was going to struggle with the day. I was going Nahor.
Could be.
Nahor. Not sure, but these are class looking little 15 mil.
They're
models.
Lovely.
Because I was like, I didn't see the scale, and I was like, oh, these aren't bad looking. And then I realized they were 15 mil, and actually, no, they're a lot better looking than I thought they were.
I mean, while they are theoretically fantasy. I say theoretically. There's no reason why they couldn't be Scandinavian.
No, of course. Yeah.
I mean, obviously we think of Vikings as hairy men on boats.
They rode around on ponies too.
But yes, they were very much horsey based back in Scandinavia. So
yeah, it was quite a nice thing with because Khurasan obviously have put these together, obviously very tongue in cheek, for these to be used for kind of Middle Earth classic fantasy as they describe it in their release for these. But I mean, if you look at, for example, the King of Nahor, I mean, there's no reason, as they said, that couldn't be, King Arthur, Romano-British.
Oh, yeah.
Rider charging out, kicking ass and taking names.
Aragon at the Black Gates.
Yeah.
Theoden,
Theoden.
Any of these.
Nedoreth.
Arthur was so far down the list of people I would have picked for. But yeah, sure. Yeah, Arthur, yeah. Well,
Arthur, King of the Britons, with a slightly higher budget than Monty Python.
Exactly.
That's true.
Yeah.
Jerry's reaching. He's reaching. Do not reach.
But so you got your characters, and obviously, as Jerry was there we go. I knew it was coming. You've also got your infantry in there as well. So there's a variety of different cavalry options. So you've got your command elements, but you've also got the sort of a variety of different riders with like spears up, throwing spears, hand weapons as well. And they're also doing the two infantry sets as well, so you have them for guarding the walls and things like that. This Khurasan seems to be just doing a lot of stuff at the moment. They do have orcs that are available as part of like another 15mm fantasy collection, but they are going to be blended into this section of the website soon, I believe, alongside some Southrons and Easterlings. So you'll have lots of other options for building up your forces in 15mm if you want to try and play your games at this scale.
Khurasan do a 15mm dragon, which is bigger than some 28mm dragons I've owned.
Yeah. Smaug, baby.
It's absolutely enormous.
Yeah.
And I don't think those men with their tiny sticks are going to be able to stop it.
With little tiny matchsticks for the dragon. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well,
aim to light them.
Just go down the line, just burn all of the spear tips until they're just holding like a black and charred lump. They do get a certain amount of detail in there. So you see how I managed
stealthily navigated, Jerry.
Navigate that tricky word. For 15mm stuff, they're all metal. I don't think they're one piece. I think some of the spearmen might be they might be one actually. I'd be fascinated. I'm not sure. I get them in my hand for some of them.
Not seen the bare metal, so
because I bought 15s from other companies where spears are separate, but I'm looking at some of the hands, and while some of them might be separate spears, I think they actually might be cast in for most. So they do a remarkably good job of getting a really nice amount of detail. Yeah. Because you need that balance in smaller scale. You want enough detail that you can see what it is, but you don't want to be overly loading stuff that it becomes so fussy that it's a pain in the backside to paint.
Yes, very true.
Especially true when horses for courses are involved there as well.
Yes.
I will say I can see a mold line that they didn't clean off. I'll just do this, because if I didn't do this, people will be questioning me. Did see it. Look at it. Oh,
you sure it's not just the shine on his helmet? Oh, no, it's not.
No, because it goes through the shield.
They cleaned off the other shield, though.
Didn't clean off this one either. They cleaned the shield, but they didn't do the head. Shocking. Oh, no. Absolutely shocking. Youth of today, huh? Can't trust them.
I'm 92 years old.
It's been 84 years.
Can't see them anymore. I thought I got the ball. Let me sleep. Right. Anyway.
It's nearly time to sleep. Don't worry.
I used to be queen. Right. Khurasan, 50mm fantasy. Spanking fun. Definitely check out the dragon. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous piece. It really is. There's not enough riders in Nahor to defeat that dragon. I'm just saying. They need to call in some friends. Let's leave the news alone.
Yeah.
I will check out a couple of Kickstarters, shall we?
Yeah. So, starting out with the big one when it comes to Kickstarter. This is from the folks at TTCombat. Now, you will probably know that they have been shepherding the Drop Zone and Drop Fleet Commander games for a while now.
The Drop Universe, if you will.
Drop Universe, yes. But Dave has always had a fascination with exploring the world, the universe that he's created in different scales. And so that's where this Kickstarter campaign comes in. So all of the factions that you could think of, the UCM, PHR, the Scourge, the Bioficers, the Shaltari, everyone else involved, they I may have just left one out. There
Rebels.
The Rebels, yep. They are now coming to the tabletop in a couple, not just one, a couple of 32mm skirmish games. So this campaign is not only aiming to fund Striketeam Commander, but also, as you can see there, Battle Zone Commander. And both these games work independently of each other, but they use a shared selection of miniatures that are all available from this Kickstarter and obviously will be available later on at retail as well. The majority of the stuff is inspired by the classic 10mm stuff that they did for Drop Zone. But in some cases, they've sort of gone back to the drawing board and revamped and reworked things because obviously what works in 10mm doesn't necessarily work in 32 and vice versa, of course. So some things like a lot of the Shaltari stuff has been slightly reworked and changed for 32mm to give you a little bit of a different idea of how they all work. When it comes to both the games, Striketeam Commander is a individual miniature-based style game where you take a team of soldiers and it's done in kind of a, as Dave put it, room clearance, tactical operations style skirmish game. It tends to be played out on boards, as you'll have seen in the trailer, with sort of cube square movement as you sort of move around. And it's very dynamic, very sort of designed to give you the idea of that kind of movie-based cinematic, breach and clear, Call of Duty style affair on the tabletop. Lots of like kicking through doors, diving behind tables, firing your gun, throwing grenades, all that kind of thing. One of the things that seemed to come up quite a lot in the demo video that I watched was grenades are freaking awesome, man. So there's flashbangs, smokes, incendiary grenades, regular frag grenades, everything else in between. The actual system itself seems fairly simple and easy to get your head around as well, or just basic D6 stuff, which is good. Things then level up when you get to Battle Zone Commander. So Battle Zone Commander plays out on still relatively small tabletops. You're playing like, I think it's like between 3x3, 3x4 style, 4x4 style tables. But rather than it being individual miniature based combat where you're doing those kind of breach and clear style scenarios, you're instead playing a slightly more squad-based skirmish battle game. So think of it a little bit more along the sides of kind of like how you'd expect like earlier editions of Warhammer 40k would have been playing on the tabletop with, you know, a couple of groups of troops, maybe one vehicle per side, that kind of thing, some of which you can see there. As I say, squad-based, also very scenario-driven. Another one of the things that Dave wanted to really press home when it came to the design of Battle Zone was that it's lots of terrain on the tabletop, no direct line of sights kind of thing, you know, running down alleyways, doing, shooting your opponent, ducking behind buildings, all that kind of thing. Vehicles have also got a little bit more in depth to them as well. So they're not just kind of like mobile gun platforms. They actually have proper cool damage charts and all sorts of things like classic 40k of the old days where you got like rear armor, front armor, side armor, that kind of thing. So they're not things that are going to be shot and popped off the table in one turn. They're actually going to, you know, stick around and have a real impact on the game, which is why you're only going to probably get like one or two of them per side when you're playing your games on the tabletop. However, the mechanics are all very similar in terms of sort of like depth to what we've seen with Striketeam. So it's not something that's going to be hard for you to get into. The actual miniatures for the game, they're all going to be done in, well, the majority of the miniatures anyway, I should say, are going to be done in plastic. So a lot of your kind of core troops that you see there are all going to be plastic kits. There are going to be a couple of different pose options and things like that. They are then going to add in a variety of resin miniatures, which is what TTCombat are most well known for. If you've looked at things like Carnivale and
Rumble Slam and
Rumble Slam,
yeah.
And they'll be taking on the role of special characters, the vehicles, and other slightly more elite, esoteric elements that would have fitted into the various factions on the tabletop. So, yeah, a few of those are represented here as part of the different sort of army selections. Although as part of like the stretch goals and add-ons and things, they've also been added in a whole host of different characters and stuff from the deep lore of the drop universe. As you can see, when it comes to pledges, you can go in and get like the commander pledges for either game effectively, but because everything works between both games and both in terms of size of game, it might actually be beneficial to go in and get the stuff for Battlezone and then give yourself just a plethora of options for use in Striketeam, which I think is a nice touch. And then obviously within each faction, there are a variety of different ways for you to kind of just add on particular things that you like and stuff like that. And we're going to be finding more about the game in videos and stuff over the course of the next couple of weeks as next 2 weeks, sorry, because the campaign's only got 14 days of when you're looking at this anyway. The other thing they've added into this, and funnily enough, we just arrived at it now, is their new chroma terrain. So this has been designed as pre-painted stuff for you to get down to the tabletop very, very quickly. As I say, one of the things about the game is that they wanted it to be very terrain dense when you're playing. So it's not just, kind of like big clear line of sights down highways and all that kind of thing. And so obviously, if you want games where you have a lot of terrain, you have to make it so that the terrain itself is fairly easy to get to the tabletop. And so that's where the chroma stuff comes in. So it's all pre-painted, effectively facades that go onto the side of the boxes, as you can see there. And it just allows you to build up tabletops very, very quickly. Although you can also get unpainted versions of some of their terrain as well if you want to go down that route, as you can see there. But I think if you're trying to get a tabletop together very quickly and have it looking nice without much effort, might be worth putting in a little bit of extra moolah to get that across. A couple of specials, as you can see there, the Kickstarter, so there's like a paint set, although they're doing a bunch of different paints for the variety of the different factions anyway. I really liked the dropship, the stealth raven thing, because you could have that on top of some of the buildings on like a helipad or something. That'd be really cool. And you're trying like fighting to get to there, like get a VIP up or something. And also a couple of different options for both drop fleet and drop zone as well in there too, which is really nice. A lot of people have said why it's interesting that you're making this when you already have drop zone and drop fleet, but drop zone and drop fleet essentially feel very complete to me now, especially now they've gone back and redone them as part of new editions for both of those games. And I think Dave
retooled some of the plastics as well for the ships.
Yeah, and I think Dave is very happy with how those games are, and they feel like they sit in a really nice ecosystem at the moment. But he's always obviously had this idea in his head of exploring the game in a weirdly more minute fashion by zooming right into particular situations. And I think the miniatures look great. I think TTCombat have really knocked out in the park on both the Drops Universe games now anyway, and also things like Carnivale and stuff. So this is a natural stepping point, I think, for them and Dave. So
since TTCombat basically took Hawk Wargaming in, they've given him all the time and all the support he's needed to expand on the ideas, and he's been allowed that time to just explore his universe and start figuring out where he's going from. And once these two games are out, once they're past their Kickstarters and in people's hands, I think really currently it would be the only game universe that games at every level. Going from upper like campaign strategic level right down to individual base
nitty-gritty stuff. And
it's a universe that doesn't need too much explanation. It doesn't feel like a game that I need to understand the lore to play the game. I just look at a faction and go, I like the look of them, I can go with that. It's never felt like a big barrier to entry universe to understand and start enjoying.
Just need to understand that the PHR look the best.
PHR are obviously the best.
And I'm totally not looking at that page again going, they're offering a 2-up of the Hades Scorpion. And I'm like, Dave,
Call me, brah.
I will do anything.
Yeah, I think it's really nice to see the game. The game has clearly taken a lot of time in development to come to the tabletop, and I think the point of difference they're offering to other sci-fi games is the skirmishy, very defined nature of what Striketeam is, and that kind of like breaching clear, very objective focused individual soldiers kicking ass, taking names kind of thing. And then Battlezone offering a slightly more skirmish level game, but also then restricting itself and being like, it's not going to be loads of tanks or all this kind of thing on the tabletop. It's still very self-contained, but it's being played out in a slightly more sort of like scenario-based fashion, still very personal, which I think is a nice little touch, and will probably, fit a lot of people's ideas of sci-fi if they've been jaded by the likes of 40k and stuff. So I think it's definitely worth having a look at Striketeam and Battlezone in a little bit more detail and diving into this Kickstarter. So yeah,
Sweet.
Very good.
Sweet like candy.
I'm itching.
Already funded and 14 days left.
14 days, yeah.
Right.
You've got 2 weeks to make your decision, John.
Yeah, plenty of time.
Yeah.
Do we have we do have a payday between now and then, John, so you're fine. Right. Our second Kickstarter is sticking with sci-fi.
It is.
OPR.
So DakkaDakka back on Kickstarter with another one of their campaigns. You will possibly remember that we talked about Millennium Wars Volume 1, which was their dive into offering up a bunch of space knights for your grimdark future games, where you could build up effectively 2 factions and have them ready to fight out games on the tabletop. Now, obviously, these have analogs within the world of Warhammer 40,000. But what's really nice about this as well is that, as Jerry was alluding to, their team at DakkaDakka have actually worked to create some really nice army lists for you to use in one-page rules if you want to go down that route as well. But before we get to that, the 2 factions that they have put together for this one are the Forgeborn, who are your gecko marines. These are your guys who don't live on a volcano planet and don't hang out with big flaming lizards. But probably clearly do.
And don't like to help civilians and give
and
people
don't
hugs.
like to help civilians and aren't badass.
Yeah.
And aren't called Sakar. And on the other side of things, you have the definitely devilish blessed ones who have decided to throw their lot in with some kind of chaotic, shadowy power.
Sounds kind of heretical to me.
It does. Just a bit weird. A bit sinful.
It's describing chaos. It's a bit weird.
Just a bit weird. It's just edgy, man.
We should refer to them as disorder.
Yeah. And both of these factions have an absolute bevy of options for you to pick up as part of the Kickstarter. If you've done any of the DakkaDakka campaigns before, they offer up a variety of STL files. So these are all digital options for you to pick up that allow you to build a lot of your core troops, your elite troops, vehicles, walkers, and all sorts of different things for use on the tabletop.
They very much are heretical.
Yes.
That is not how you count in Roman numerals. That's the most heretical thing I've seen. They need to be wiped out. All of them.
All of the miniatures are available to print them as full assembled miniatures effectively, so you can have them
monopose one piece.
Yeah, so monopose like DakkaDakka it could have intended, I suppose, if you wanted to have them all as just their particular versions of the sculpts. So takes out all the guesswork and stuff. You can just print them off and away you go. Or you can get them, as you can see here, as build kits, so you can then use them alongside other stuff that DakkaDakka produce. Or you could use it alongside some of the plastic kits and things that are out there from, the likes of Games Workshop or whatever, and mix and match things as you see fit. Because one of the things that Games Workshop just refuse to do is give any flavor to their chapters. And so this is why everyone else has stepped in to do it.
Everybody has vanilla.
Yeah.
Your table, your rules.
Exactly. Yes.
If you ain't going to an official tournament,
who cares? Exactly. Yeah. And as you can see, loads of different options there that are very thematic towards both forces. The Forgeborn, I've got kind of lots of flamer troops, those badass Terminators with the hammers and the shields. You've also got leader characters and all that kind of thing in there as well. So you've got your kind of like, there you go, the Forge Father, Gefest, which is looking rather badass.
Very garrosh shoulders there.
Yeah, it is actually.
That's who I was thinking.
Yes.
I'm thinking, I've seen that model.
I've seen that before.
I've not seen a GW model
Clearly.
in a while, so it can't be that. Where do I recognize him from?
Clearly, Gefest has raided and taken those armor pieces. So, on the other side of things, obviously, you've got the Blessed Ones as well, who've got a few kind of like unique troops in there, but also sort of demonic elements added to the side of it as well. Oh, the Magma Dread is cool. I love that. Oh, lovely jubbly.
Pronounced Magma.
Very Contemptor coded, which I love. Gorgeous. Contemptor's wonderful. I still have a fancy for good old box snorts, though. Love a good box snort. Big clanky box snort. Clank, clank, clank.
It's the Dawn of War trailer that made everybody laugh.
Yeah.
Still remember the old peanut dreadnoughts. Fury and Eddie.
You need to watch Snipe and Web, Jerry, on YouTube. They go through all the old edition codexes and all the old edition box games.
Brilliant.
Good stuff.
I will say there is a reference in the Blessed Ones that I'll be very interested if people get the reference to, but their particular character, the Betrayal Apostle, is called Jonah Sins, and he looks as you'd expect he would.
Yes.
So I also heard he's had jobs as a doctor and an engineer.
Oh, he's been a fireman, astronaut,
pizza delivery guy.
He's he's not man who.
This is going over the top of my head.
Just you wait, John. You wait till you read the comments.
Yeah.
So, but I looked at it and I went, I see what you did there, Dakka. As I said, though, both of these factions have full rules designed by Dakka for use in one-page rules. So if you want to jump into grim, dark future and play with these guys on the tabletop, you'll be able to find options to do that. And, grim, dark future, bloody great set of rules, really fun, quick and easy to dive into. And, very malleable and changeable to sort of suit the kind of games that you want to play. So if you want to dive in and use these on the tabletop, you've got a whole set of rules that are available for free there. Alongside, guess what? The Grim Dark Future rules are also free. So all you've got to do is pay for the resin and the files, and away you go. So
off you
gorgeous
pop.
stuff.
Sonny Jimbo, off you pop. I do really like the one-page rules. If I was to go back to doing any sort of sci-fi of that ilk, it's probably the one I would use. I know it's the one I made Shay and Paul
play for half an hour.
Yeah. Oh, they played for more than half an hour. But it's an incredibly easy set of rules to pick up, which is key really, because it means you can do what everybody wants to do, which is throw all your toys on the table and actually get a game in.
Just
be
have
finished
some fun.
in a couple of hours. It's it's not a trial to actually do it. And the figures they've come up with there are very nice.
They're lovely.
Yeah. I'm not disappointed in you though, Ben. I'm just
surely some respect, right?
Yeah, no, 100%. Right, there is 13 days
John
left.
is like, what the?
And it's also funded as Kelspring.
It is, 12 days left on this campaign.
12,
get involved. Yeah.
Right, I think that wraps us up for another week. It's been business as usual from us, really, hasn't it? I think everybody here would agree that we've been absolutely nailed on for that.
Yeah, definitely.
We'll be back next week for more of the same. If you want to join us before then, you can do on Sunday, when we'll be diving into a whole host of fun with Warren. He's still here.
We will. Yeah.
We haven't got rid of him yet.
Is he?
Yes. That's just because you keep your head down, John. You're very lucky in that respect. So you can join us over at OnTableTop.com for a 30-day trial if you've not already. And if you fancy checking out some more interesting things, you'll be able to also come over and have a wee nosy around I suppose on the YouTubes as well.
It is.
But I sat down with Mr. Duncan Rhodes, Esquire,
Yeah.
and had a wee chat with him about the upcoming painting competition. His Painting Masters is going to be the big focus for paint splatters at the UKG this year.
Yes.
For the first time. So if you want to find out what that's about, there's an interview I did with Dunk, as he likes me to call him. No idea. And you can also
Donkey Thin Coats. That's how I call it.
Yes, that is 100% it. There's also all the information on the website there about the categories that you can enter in as well. So if you're unaware of that, it is coming. And if you fancy entering any of that, you can even do a project in our project system.
You can show us what you're working with, because one of the things about the painting competition that they really wanted to kind of hammer home is it's not just open to veterans. If you're somebody who's brand new to painting, or you just paint your board game miniatures and stuff like that, get involved, because there will definitely be a place for you in the competition.
Yeah.
So yeah,
It's not all about the highest standard. It's about getting involved.
No. Yes,
And you've got until June to paint your stuff, including board game pieces.
plenty of time. Yeah,
Bags of time. So have a nosy at that, and then hang around and see us on Sunday. Otherwise, we'll see you again next Friday. Until then, have a great week of gaming. Bye-bye.
Go ahead and check out our other content on screen now. And while you're at it, why not hit subscribe and remember to ding our dong. Go on, you know you want to click it. Go on.